What's up, guys? If you've been following my channel at all, or you're just kind of interested in moving to Sarasota or potentially moving to Sarasota, you've probably heard about the pretty serious flooding and Hurricane Debby that we had here in Sarasota. So today I wanted to kind of get on here and show you a little bit of the aftermath, how Sarasota's been doing, kind of what damage was done, and how we've been able to recover from that so far. So take a look at some of the footage that I was able to capture here in the past few days. It's now Saturday. The hurricane really hit on Monday afternoon. The footage that I took was on Wednesday, but I still do want to show you some of the positive aspects that I think that a lot of people in the news and the media won't be showing you. So let's take a look at that now. Oh, and make sure to stick till the end because I'm going to be talking about kind of what this means for prospective buyers and people who are looking to move to Sarasota and hopefully buying a home here in Sarasota. What to look out for, what not to look out for, and a lot of the things like that. So what we're driving up to right now could be considered kind of ground zero for the flooding here in Sarasota. This is going to be Lorraine Road, what was used to be known as Bee Ridge Extension, and the corner of Palmer. So the corner of Palmer and Lorraine, there are three, maybe four big neighborhoods in this area that were majorly impacted with Hurricane Debby. And the first one is the one that you're going to be seeing right now. We're actually driving into it. This is Laurel Meadows. Now it's going to be on the east side of Lorraine Road. And we never knew this. I had clients who actually bought in here and we did so much research, and Lorraine Meadows never flooded. It never has ever had an issue with flooding during heavy storms, during hurricanes, nothing. And all of a sudden now you can see water is up over mailboxes, it's over cars. I mean, these people's houses are seeing a foot to 2 feet of water inside of them. It's mind-boggling. So as you can see here, there's actually a police officer who is kind of guarding the entry point to the flood zone here, and you can see these massive industrial, kind of like old school army trucks and really large lifted vehicles are the only things that are able to get through to this water. Now here's a little view of my drone, and in a little bit you'll see that I actually was lucky enough to meet a gentleman who had a really nice lifted truck who was able to take me into Lorraine Meadows, where I was able to check on my client's home to get her some information to know whether or not the floodwaters were still in there, and as you'll see, they definitely were. Now I know it's hard to tell from this angle, but we're sitting probably about 4 or 5 feet up in the air in this massive lifted truck with 40-inch tires. But you'll still be able to see how quickly the water gets deep and almost above these tires. I mean, just take a look at this. I mean, just look at that. The whole neighborhood is now one massive lake. And this was one of the things that was really concerning me and the gentleman riding in the truck this day is we didn't know where the road was. You truly could not see where the road began and where the road ended. And so if we made one wrong turn in here, you're very easily driving into one of the multiple lakes inside of this neighborhood. So we had to take it very slowly. And I mean, look at this truck in front of us that just turned right. Look at how deep that water is on those tires. I mean, again, like I've said before, this is something I've never seen, and as many people as I've spoken to, no one who's ever lived here long enough to remember has never seen anything like this. Water was almost above the mailboxes. I want to remind you again that this is on Wednesday. The worst of the storm happened Sunday night. We basically stopped seeing rain around Monday afternoon. So we had 2 or 3 almost full days of sunshine like this, blue, sunny skies, where it was so hot and humid, and the water is still this high up. I mean, it's like a bowl. This neighborhood is like a bowl, and it just filled up with all of the water. I'll hopefully be able to put up a little bit of drone footage here in a minute, and you'll see that almost every neighborhood surrounding this area is completely dry. So there's got to be some serious issues going on. And of course, this area, this neighborhood in specific, is not zoned for a flood zone. This is actually an X flood zone, which is the best one you can get, and it does not require you to have flood insurance. So I'm actually friends with one of the homeowners who is on the homeowners association, and I was able to speak with her, and she had said out of the 85 homes in this neighborhood, take a guess at how many had flood insurance. Two homes in this 85 home community had flood insurance. The rest are on their own to figure out what to do with this mess that they are now in. At this point, the water is basically almost over our tires, and once we saw this car right in front of us, almost completely underwater, we decided that it might be time to turn around ourselves, and we'd seen enough.
Roll your window down so you get a better picture. I think the other house will have a better...
Yeah, you can tell better. Look at where the water's already come down from. Look at that, that's perfect.
We're almost over the tires here. So we'll measure the tires. We'll know exactly. And that's not even the deep part back here.
It was up to their windowsill.
Look at the freaking fence. That's 6 foot deep. I bet you that's one of the ponds.
Yeah.
You would lose my truck in that hole.
Yeah, you would. Holy smokes. Now, just for perspective, as we continue to drive northbound on Lorain, we're about to turn left, make a left and turn west onto Palmer Avenue. But before we do that, there's a four-way stop. And at this four-way stop, this is Artistry. It's a new construction neighborhood. And it's still continuing to be built out. It's right next door to Laurel Meadows. And as you can tell, it's had zero issues with flooding. I mean, look at the road. Look at how you have to drive uphill into this neighborhood. This is what you want to look for when you're looking to buy a new home. If you're driving down into a neighborhood, or you can just, I mean, you can tell areas that just look like they're low-lying. A lot of the area east of I-75, and even this gentleman I'm driving around with, he is a bit older than me, but even I remember this. This area was farmland. It was very low-lying, and during any water or storm, I remember knowing kids who were just a little bit older than me would take their four-wheelers out and their dirt bikes and come mudding out here because it would always flood. And now they've just continued to build home after neighborhood, putting them in X flood zones and telling these people that there's no issue with flooding, and then we get this. All right, now here we are turning left off of Lorain Road and east onto Palmer Road. And as you can tell, this is right behind another new construction neighborhood. And as you saw right there, was an Audi completely under the water. And my suspicion is that it got flooded out in this storm, and then the water just fully pushed it off the road into the ditch. And I mean, again, I keep saying it, and I was saying it to myself when I was looking around. This is 3 days after. The water has already receded about 1 foot to 2 feet, and we're still seeing this much flooding. Here's another new construction neighborhood, Worthington, on Palmer Road. And last opportunity, homes around $1 million. $1 million homes that are getting completely flooded out by this storm. It's just unbelievable.
We'll start to see Spanish people walking around with cards and flashing, trying to get jobs. Then you got all these ranch houses. This is the back way I take home to my 28.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing yesterday.
What you're looking at right here is farmland. This is where cows are roaming and horses are. That's not a lake.
I don't know how that even happened.
I bet it got just picked up and
up.
sent over. All right, now we're turning into the third and final neighborhood of these 3 neighborhood areas. And before we get into it, I thought it was pretty funny watching these kids play around in the canoe in the flooded streets. I mean, kids still have to have fun one way or another, right? Flooded streets, I mean, this is the perfect time. Looks here like maybe the street only. Look at how high up these houses are, though.
Yeah, it's different.
It is. But again, as we continue driving, you'll see just how quickly this water begins to get really deep again. And this is the danger and why some people have their cars flooded out so quickly. But before we get into that, take a look at these houses. This is what I'm talking about when I say you need to look for homes that are built up. These homes are built almost 2 feet above the road. They have enough fill dirt that has lifted them. Now, I have friends and family who live in this neighborhood as well, and I don't think that any single home in this neighborhood was flooded. I mean, look at the aggressive drive up these driveways to the homes. But like, yeah, that's probably 2 feet of water still. That's at your, so they're, yeah, and they're standing on the sidewalk.
All right.
Now, the other area that got really affected by the flooding is an area on Bay Vista known as Pinecraft. Now, Pinecraft is a very, very large Amish community located here in Sarasota, kind of the northern end of the big middle of Sarasota, if you're familiar with the area. And a lot of these homes have been built with wood. They're smaller and they're just in a lower lying area. So as you can see here, they're already starting to pull out any wood and bed frames, bedding, carpets. It's all already starting to come out.
Here, Zach.
All right, now that we've seen kind of some of the damage that's happened around Sarasota, I do want to point out some of the positive aspects, which I know is kind of hard to say positive. How could there be anything positive? But I mean, we had record-breaking rainfall. I think it was something like, don't quote me on this, but 16 inches of rain in 24 hours. And really, there were only a few small areas of Sarasota that were really impacted by this amount of rainfall. A majority of Sarasota came away almost scot-free. I mean, maybe a little bit of water accumulation in the streets and stuff like that, but no more than an inch. Really only a few of those places that I've showed you already were really bad, and that's what most people are going to see on the media, and they're gonna all of a sudden assume that all of Sarasota looked just this horrible and everything's flooded and that there's no homes. I mean, most of Sarasota looked pretty much like this right after the storm happened. So that's a positive. Another positive is that because it looked like this right after the storm, most of the flooding, except for that one area on Lorraine, east of I-75, where Laurel Meadows is, everywhere else completely dried out within a few hours, which I think is so important. When you do get water in your home, God forbid if it does happen, you need to make sure that you can get that water out and rip out the carpets, get everything out hanging up and dry, and that's what we saw. The next day, there were carpets, there was clothes, there were shoe racks, all sitting outside, sitting in the sun, drying out. So I'm praying for those people, minimal damage, and to be able to get working so quickly after a storm and flooding is so important. I want you to take a look at a few clips that I was able to capture. I'll grab a few videos that I found on Instagram and Facebook of when the flooding was happening and then how it looked a day or two after the flooding. All right, so here's a video I was able to find on Facebook from a gentleman named Tony Breyer, and this is Colonial Oaks. And now this is an older area of central Sarasota, and it typically floods regularly, even with just normal rain. But obviously this is something exceptionally different. If you saw right there, take note of the tennis court, because this is what it looks like literally a day and a half later. Completely gone. Floodwaters are basically non-existent. If you drove through here, you wouldn't know that there was about 5 feet of water here just a day and a half ago. Look at those tennis courts. If you scroll back in the video, that tennis court was completely underwater. It looked like a pool. You couldn't even see the tennis net, which is about waist high. And now this is what we're looking at. I mean, even the ponds are at normal levels. It's not even like they're more full than they typically are. But this just goes to show how resilient Sarasota is and how well these waters are able to move away when given just a little bit of time. But this just means that we have to slow down with the overdevelopment of Sarasota. We need places for the water to go. All right, now what does this mean for prospective home buyers? Well, number one, and this hasn't really changed ever, is you have to get a knowledgeable real estate agent. Somebody who preferably has lived here and has been around for more than 3 to 5 years, maybe someone who's born and raised here. These people can know and they remember these kind of areas and the situations that have happened before. This isn't the first time that stuff like this has happened. Yes, this is the first time it's happened on this scale, but it has happened, and a knowledgeable realtor will know those areas and where to kind of tell you to stay away from and what areas might have this. They also know what to look at. Like I said, those homes that are built up a little bit higher, that's better to look for. But it also just shows how important it is to get a home inspection. Now there are going to be some homes that have had some kind of water damage throughout Sarasota. So it's going to be really important to have a thorough home inspector who is taking a look at drywall and framing and everything like that, electrical, plumbing, to make sure that everything is still in good running and working order. All right, guys, and with that, I hope that this video has kind of given you a little bit of a better insight and maybe calmed your nerves a little bit. Although, yes, we did get some flooding. It's not all bad, and it's not as what the videos you see are looking like. We really do live in a beautiful area, and I'm still really happy to live here. This doesn't worry me as much as maybe it does a lot of other people who might be fresh and new to Florida and Sarasota specifically. I think we are going to see some big updates in the flood mapping. And other than that, I think we're just going to keep on keeping on. So if you found this video useful and you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, because I'm doing this every week, putting out new videos about living in Sarasota, moving to Sarasota, basically everything Sarasota. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.